Hey there guys, it's Natural Nadine here and I'm back with another video. Guys, right now I'm so chilled. I'm just in my t-shirt on my Chantel vibes, okay? My hair is greasy, it is now flat, like oh my gosh, the grease is crazy. My roots are crazy, everything's just a bit crazy, but you know what isn't crazy? My split ends, okay? Today's video, guys, we're going to be talking about how to avoid split ends. So without me rambling on, let's get into the video. When we are looking at the life cycle of hair in general, hair naturally starts to split after 12 weeks. Now there's some things you can do to help to prolong this. There's some things you can do to help to maintain this, but even after a fresh trim, it's likely that those ends in your hair are going to start to split after 12 weeks because of the general life cycle of hair. And that's why a lot of hairstylists, you actually see them recommend come and trim every 12 weeks, come and trim every like 3 months or 8 to 12 weeks or up to 16 weeks, like, you know, is like the recommendation. I'm not saying do that, but I'm just saying that in the life cycle of hair, there is some merit to the fact of trimming every between 8 to 16 weeks. So here are a few tips to make sure that you're not speeding along the process of getting split ends, because 12 weeks is like the natural life cycle of hair. It could be earlier, especially if you're doing things to speed up the process of split ends, and that's how you can end up with stagnant hair growth, because your hair's splitting at a faster rate than it's growing, and then you're cutting at a faster rate that it's growing, and that's a domino effect of how your hair doesn't end up growing. And honestly guys, I was in that exact position. When I had my curly hair, my hair was splitting at the same rate that it was growing, and then I had to, not the same rate, but I wasn't retaining as much length with my curly hair as I was with my straight hair, just because of the general wear and tear that it takes with curly hair in general. So when I did start my hair journey, I had to do what I would call was a big chop. I basically did like a blunt cut to like my shoulders like 2 months ago, 3 months ago, maybe 3 months ago. And my hair still hasn't like gone back to its original length, but it's fine because I don't have an excessive amount of split ends anymore. So tip number one, I can't believe it's taken me this long to get into it. Sorry for my super long intro. Tip number one, especially for a straight head natural, always use heat protectant. Like I mentioned this in one of my other videos on just, I don't know what I was talking about in that video, but in this video specifically, the reason why you want to make sure that you're using heat protectant is that it coats your hair strand with either silicone or oil, whatever your heat protectant basis is. It coats that hair strand, so when you're applying heat, you're not directly heating your hair, even though you are, but you're not. This is really important because when you're applying heat to your hair, that increases the chances of the hair splitting, not only at the ends, but like in the middle as well. Splitting doesn't always just happen at the ends of your hair, so making sure that you're using heat protectant is an absolute must to avoid split ends. And when I say using heat protectant, I don't just mean like one time before you blow dry. I mean before you blow dry, heat protectant. In between blow drying and straightening, heat protectant. In between straightening and curling, heat protectant. Tip number two, oil your ends frequently without overdoing it, of course. The reason why oiling your ends helps so much is because it reduces the friction between the hair strands. This works similarly with serums and oils. So whatever your hair prefers, whether it's oils or whether you just want to apply a serum to your ends, I switch it up. Sometimes I use a serum, sometimes I use an oil, whatever I'm feeling that day. Like I said, this reduces the friction between the hair strands, and that friction between the hair strands, you'll be surprised when your hair strands are like rubbing against each other together. They actually, that friction can also cause the hair to split, especially in curlier hair textures and coily hair textures. The single strand knots, the friction, the rubbing, it's all a recipe for split ends. So yeah, make sure you're oiling your ends frequently. I do it daily personally. I don't know about you guys. Specifying my ends, not my scalp, not my hair, just my ends. Like obviously my hair gets a lot greasy, yeah, because I oil my ends every day. But I've stopped caring because it's like I'm here to have healthy hair. Like I don't care if Tom in the office thinks my hair is greasy. Like I actually don't care. So I've started really rocking it. Like most of the time my hair's up at work anyways, but even when it's up you can tell it's greasy, but like who gonna check me, boo? Next tip guys, trim frequently. This is something I never used to swear by. I used to be a twice a year girl, and if you're a curly hair natural, maybe fine. If you're a straight hair girly, trimming your hair frequently is an absolute must if you want to retain length. Once you've kind of reached a point where your hair is like at its hair goals, you might be able to trim your hair twice a year and just cut off what you grow and only grow like a tiny bit. But if you are in the process of trying to actually grow your hair, you need to be trimming frequently, because like I said, once your hair gets to that stage where it's splitting, if it starts traveling, the more you're gonna have to cut in order to retain length. The quicker you nip that in the bud, the better. Next tip, don't shampoo your ends. Now, when I was a curly hair natural, I always shampooed my entire head top because I was using heavy, thick products, creams, butters, you name it. As a straight hair natural, I literally only shampoo my roots, which you're probably thinking, but all that greasiness on your ends. But realistically, there's not that much product. This is like a couple of drops of oil, which is probably gonna naturally dissolve in a couple of days anyway. When it comes to shampooing, I go for my scalp. I make sure that my scalp is clean, and then the rest of my hair just gets washed out when it is. The reason is because I do not need to be drying out my ends more than they already are. When your hair is silk pressed, when your hair is straight, you're not using that many products to moisturize your hair. So you don't want to be stripping your ends of the moisture. Leave them alone. My last tip for maintaining split ends, do protective styles. Now, when I say that, I don't mean your typical protective styles, braids, cornrows, whatever you name it. I mean, when you're at home or when you're around, make sure that your ends are tucked away. Make sure that your hair isn't draping down on cotton like this, because you'll be surprised how much this type of friction, you know what I mean, your ends rubbing on your t-shirt and doing all of that actually upsets your hair, especially when you are in the process of growing your hair. That's also why a lot of people end up experiencing what they call like the shoulder length plateau, where your hair won't grow past your shoulder. A lot of friction on your ends isn't good. So when you're at home, like when I'm at home, guys, my whole thing is I like to still look cute. So when I'm at home, I always usually do this, and then I use a clip, and boom, I'm walking around. I still look cute in the house, and my ends are away. My ends are away. They're tucked out of the way. They're not, you know, they're not having too much friction with my shoulders, with the cotton, with the sofa, with my bed, with anything like that. So that's why. This to me is a protective style, right? So yeah, guys, that is pretty much it for today's video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.